I would say a lot of it depends on the size. So if you've got a really, really big property and there's just a gas line easement going on the south side that really affect it too much, it's not going to affect the price too much. But on these smaller tracks, when they go right through the middle,
Mm,
it restricts your building,
yeah.
especially for a buyer that's wanting to buy a specific tract to build. It takes away a lot of the property's value.
This is Spilling the Realty, a podcast by Sold in a Snap.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spilling the Real Tea. I'm your host, Eric Johnson, and we're really excited. We're going to be talking about something a little bit different in the real estate world today, which is going to be property on bigger pieces of land, ranches, etc. So today I have as our guests, Cody and Taylor from the B2 Ranch Group. Guys, welcome today.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're super excited to get into it. But before we get into that, I do want to thank our sponsors for today, which is Sold in a Snap. Sold in a Snap is Central Texas' premier real estate photography and marketing company, helping agents look incredible, stand out from the competition, and grow their business. They provide photos, tours, video, and marketing, everything that you would need to market yourself and your listings with ease. They're leading the world in real estate tech, backed by all 5-star reviews, and they're different on purpose because your success is their mission. Want to save time, wow your clients, and dominate your market? Visit soldinasnap.com and see how Sold in a Snap can elevate your business or your listing today. All right, you guys. Well, thank you again so much for being on. We're super excited to have you. And I'm going to be honest, I feel like I'm going to learn a lot today. Uh, I know a lot about real estate, but this is a part that I've never really explored. So before we get into all that space, I do want to learn a little bit more about the two of you. Are you guys originally from here, Central Texas? What brought you here? How did we get into real estate? Where are we at?
Yeah. I'll let Cody go first and kind of give his side, and then I'll give mine.
Originally, yeah, born and raised here in Texas. I grew up in a small town called Godley, Texas, which is about an hour north of here. Kindergarten through senior year there.
Yeah.
And we've just always been in this area.
Yeah. And so Godly, how far from kind of Waco is that?
From Waco, or probably about an hour and a half north. We're just south of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Small town, maybe 700 people when I graduated.
Yeah.
If you go through Godley now, much different.
Yes.
Exploded, a lot bigger population. I drive through there and I don't recognize anybody these days.
Okay.
So,
Oh, cool. And about you, Taylor?
Yeah. I grew up on the right side of the Red River in Oklahoma.
Oh,
So I grew up there, small town, same thing, outside Durant. So just over the Red River. Came to Central Texas about 6.5 years ago.
okay.
Jumped into real estate right away when I got here and been doing it ever since.
Okay. So you guys, you're both realtors here in Texas now. But where did that journey start? Did you originally go into residential? Why did you want to do real estate in the first place? How did that kind of come to fruition?
So for me, I came out of the military straight into this. I wanted something that, at the time I had 2 kids, now I have 3. I wanted something that could be flexible and that I could kind of set my own schedule and be around my kids. And my grandpa still sells farm and ranch real estate in the hill country. And so I grew up doing that. So when I got my license, that was the ultimate goal. But most people kind of start in residential because that's where the flows are a little easier, especially not having any sphere when I first got here. And then what's been 4 years? About 4 years ago, me and Cody teamed up to make the B2 Ranch Group and both dove into that.
Yeah, and Cody's similar. Did Taylor say, "Hey, you want to jump in with me? Go get your license and let's do this."
well, I actually started 7 years ago in real estate, and mine was a little bit different story. I was working on about a 5,000 acre ranch and was just brushing shoulders with these big ranch owners that were buying and selling real estate.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was just like, man, I'm kind of like right here. Why not jump in on this for the flexibility and stuff? So I jumped right in and went straight into farm and ranch. Oh, wow. I had a sphere that was already formed. So that helped me kind of project myself better to that. And we've just been going ever since. Started with the brokerage before Bentwood for about a year. I left that brokerage, came to Bentwood, and then that's whenever me and Taylor kind of met, and we were like, let's do this thing. Let's do it.
Well, now, how did you guys meet then? Did you know each other from years past, or did you just kind of fall and you guys started talking about farm and ranch, you're like, let's do this together. Let's make our own group.
Yeah, I mean, that was really it. We didn't meet till we got into the brokerage. And it was just kind of like loosely meeting there for a while. And I had a decision to make. I was like, do I really want to go after residential? Because I was doing pretty well in that. Or do I want to follow what my passion is and get in this farm and ranch thing?
Yeah.
And I was talking to my broker and she said, you and Cody need to get together if you really want to do this. We didn't have a farm and ranch division at Bentwood at the time.
Yeah.
And she said, why don't you and Cody sit down and talk? And we did. And we had no idea what it was going to look like or how it was going to be structured. But we had lunch together one day. And then he called me that night. He's like, let's do this thing. And so we started planning it out from there.
So you start the B2 ranch group, and is there do you guys do it the two of you, or is there like a team now? Like, has it grown? Or do you still like, feet to the pedal to the metal, the two of you, or like how does that work?
Yeah, it's grown. So it's there's three of us now. It's Cody and I, and then in September we brought on another agent.
Yeah.
And we call him Grandpa Kevin.
Yeah.
He retired from Farm Bureau, had a lot of connections in the ranching industry, and so great to use a natural fit. And it's been good. He's taken off.
All right. So I know a lot of our listeners and a lot of the people joining us today are probably a lot more familiar with the residential side. Before we get into some of the details of farm and ranch and everything, like, what is the first thing that I need to know going into it? Like, if I'm a realtor and I'm thinking like maybe I want to make a transition, let's say, what was the first thing that you would say you need to have this or you need to know this before you go that direction?
Faith. Yeah, it's the biggest faith-based job you'll ever have.
Yeah.
Because everything is based off faith.
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
You're going to work twice as hard as everybody else in the room, and you still may not get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So you better have some pretty good faith and some pretty good shoulders to do.
Yeah. And I would assume patience comes with that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Relationships, I'm sure. Let's talk about that a minute. So when we talk about ranches and farms, like, these are oftentimes like family properties that have been passed down for generations, and sometimes they don't move. How like residential homes are constantly being like bought and sold and bought and sold, and the next person's coming in a few years later, they sell and go get another house. But it's a little bit different from farming and ranching. Like, how do you find the connections? How do you help somebody get to that point? Is it kind of the long game, going out, shaking hands? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's very relationship based. And I would say it's kind of odd because when sellers in farm and ranch can be very, very emotional.
Yeah.
Because they've had these ranchers for years. But then there's also the other side of it with buyers and sellers is completely black and white. Do these numbers make sense? Can I run a cattle operation on here? Can I run a farming operation on here and make it turn a profit?
Yeah.
And with land prices in Texas right now, a lot of times that's hard to do.
Yeah. Unless you're selling 100 acres of property in California and then coming out here, then you might be able to wield that. Yeah.
Right.
I got my first client, and let's say they say, I want to sell my ranch. I want to downsize. And I would assume a lot of these people that you're working with are maybe a little bit older, or they're at a point where they can't manage the property. And so they're like, I need to do something, take care of my family or whatever. I have my first, client, and I go up to them. What are the questions I need to be asking as I'm trying to prepare to sell this property? Selling and buying? Are we selling and buying? I'm assuming.
Selling and buying. For your direct question with sellers, I mean, the first question we kind of ask is like, what's the overall goal here?
Okay.
Are we just selling to get out of the game? Or are we selling to move? Because then it gets real complicated with, we just trying to introduce into 1031 exchanges, which are very big in our business.
Yeah.
That's for somebody that wants to take a property, maybe in Limestone County, and they want to sell it. They want to go buy some out in Comanche County. So we introduce them to the right people that handle 1031 exchanges. We like to kind of get an idea of what their price point is, what they want to get out of it, to make sure that it's something that we can actually accommodate them for.
Yeah.
Because some people think their stuff is worth gold, and it's quite frankly, it's just not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we start with a lot of that. And then one big thing that Taylor and I do, I think it's what makes us love this job is we ask about the story of the place. We want to know about it.
Yeah.
You know, we like to hear the stories of the tree house in the back that was built for the grandkids.
Yeah.
And how their uncle had flipped a four-wheeler and, you know, barely survived and had a dam. Like, this broke every bone in his body, broke every bone in his body, broke both his legs. He still got the limp to this day.
Yeah.
But stories like that we absolutely love. And it doesn't really necessarily correlate with real estate, but to us, it does.
Sure.
Because that gives us a picture of like how to sell the property. We're big storytellers. We love telling stories. So yeah, that's absolutely. And then you get more into the specifics. Are you currently doing anything with the ground, or do you have a lease on the property? Somebody else doing something with the ground, because then we got to get in contact with them about leases, and there's a lot of red tape around those things.
Yeah.
You know, are the cows saying? Are they going? Are you pulling the hay out of the ground? Are the oats going to be up?
Yeah.
There's just a lot of kind of like small dynamic things that we go through to kind of prepare for that initial thing. And then it's just like, hey, show us around and show us what you got. And from that point, I tell this to everybody. I'll tell anybody in Texas, Taylor Roy's the best when it comes to price per acre. You're not going to find anybody that's going to price it out better than him.
Yeah.
He's going to get on the money. So we basically look at properties to make sure Taylor gets to look at them. And then we go through it with a fine tooth comb and we price them out at that point on kind of what we suggest the price would be. And at the end of the day, that seller gets to decide for themselves if that's what they want to sell it for, or sometimes they like to go a little higher, and we will accommodate that.
So when we're looking at the factors of what's valuable on these properties, I'm assuming it probably 3 or 4 things we're looking at. Is there livestock or animals that you're selling? Is the home itself on the property? You're selling that, and you're selling the acreage, the amount of property. Is that all a little? Is it tricky to kind of get numbers on each of those things individually?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And my advice for agents who haven't done farm and ranch that want to kind of get into it is, on a residential house, for the most part, you can set your comp blocks and boom, you're flipping through pictures. And that's a great way to get numbers on that. But on land, you have mineral rights, water. I mean, water is the biggest commodity in Texas right now.
Sure.
Do you have a well on the property? Do you have multiple wells? Do you have a 3-acre lake? You know, stuff like that makes a huge difference. Do you have live water?
Yeah.
A river, creek?
Flipping and running. Yeah.
How's your cross fencing? How's your fence condition?
Yeah.
How's your weed management? I mean, it all goes into how you price these things. So it's a multitude of factors, but just like a good residential agent, once a good farm and ranch agent gets on a property, you could tell pretty quick what you're working with.
Yeah. So interesting. So when, you know, in the residential space, you know, what is it, about 30 days or so, you know, for the contract go through all that stuff, right? Is that a lot longer? Is it different also in that part where it's like, it's going to take a little bit of time to get through this process?
I would say most of the time you're looking at 45 to 60 days.
Okay.
Not always. I mean, you do get 30-day closings, or,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You can turn them quicker, especially if it's a place a buyer really knows they want. And that's the thing with these properties is they're so specific to each buyer. You have to market them so much different, because this piece of land will be great to hunt on, but this piece of land is going to be where you run cattle, and you can't just lump it together and hope it hits the right person.
Yeah.
Sold in a Snap actually did a video for us on a place a couple years ago that had a mini Western town on it. And it's like, how does Cody value that, for one?
Sure.
But how do you get that in front of the right buyer who doesn't think this is just junk?
Yeah.
Because to the wrong person, it is junk.
Yeah. It's just
Or more mate.
up on my land.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was an interesting one. And actually that year we ended up selling 2 ranches within a couple weeks of each other that had many Western towns on it, and haven't seen one since. So
That's crazy. Well, tell me some fun stories about your guys' experience, some cool properties or some unique experiences that you guys have had, either buying, for some people, or selling for some people.
My favorite one is one of our biggest ones to date. We drove out to Terlingua, Texas, and went to 20,000 acres. Oh, wow. They actually shot the Bronco commercials on this piece of property. Oh, wow. It was the Agua Fria Ranch. And there was one natural spring that came off the mountain, and one side was green, the rest of it was dirt. And I think this place probably had 5 or 6 different topography changes on it. At one point, we thought we were on the moon because it had these like standstill craters and stuff, and it was wicked. And we went with this guy, and we were there for all day. I mean, we got there right as the sun came up, and we
It was a read it trip. We were like,
3 days for
all day though.
we were on the ranch all day. We got there first thing in the morning, and we left at night. And it was just the funniest thing because it's just not something you expect.
Yeah.
But we're driving, and our client was in front of us, and he jumped out, he come running back, and he had an AR pistol in his hand. And he says, "You guys see that? You guys see that?" And we said, "What? See what?" And he goes, "The lasers." And about that time, Taylor's kind of looking out of his truck, and a laser going across his eyes. And he goes, "I see a laser." So he says, "Cody, get out and come up here with me." So I jump out thinking, what are we going to do? What is happening?
Is it like snipers in the forest?
He's still there trying to get us out of his song in Terlingua. I don't know if you know where it is. It's 20 miles north of the border in the middle of nowhere. Nice green, but we don't. Oh, and we don't know if our border patrol. We don't know if it's kids messing around. We don't know.
Even anything. So
Yeah.
we jump in, and he's got just a really, really nice Range Rover and stuff. Yeah, like sit on the side and put your feet. You know, my first girl I'm muddied. I got my dirty feet. This $300,000 Range Rover. And he's like, point at the ridges. And I'm like, what am I pointing at? And I got his gun pointing, like, what am I looking for? And we got out of there, and we got back into town. It was just, what a ride. Oh, man. We had the sheriff's department following us, shine the lights in the cars as we were driving. And we got to the diner. It was like 2 a.m. We're like, what the hell just happened? Oh, my God. It's like one of our first biggest trips we've done.
Yeah. Yeah, that was not long after we started this. And
Yeah.
I don't think anything tops that. I mean, like you said, we're running out of this thing like we're running a convoy. Sure. There's the other agent that was with us is a woman. So we put her in the middle, and I'm in the back, and they're in the front, and we're hightailing it through these dirt roads. And so that one was wild. Some of the coolest stuff that happens with this is the people we meet.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the relationships that we make. I mean, we're friends with people that we never,
All of them. Yeah.
that we never would have been friends with, and we know their life stories. And like he mentioned the tree house. We had an old man. He said he was recording a video, and he started tearing up when we asked him what his favorite part of the ranch was. He said, my grandkids had begged me for a tree house. And I built one right there, and I have to leave it. You know, he needed a smaller property, and it was, so all that tugs on your heartstrings, you know, and only connects you to the land that much more.
You know, and we really need, like, on the other side, some, a buyer's agent who comes out and is like, and it's got a treehouse for your kids.
Right.
Like, how cool would that be to be able to have that piece of it? Say, like, and it's going to another family that's going to really use it,
Yeah.
So, man, that's really neat. You mentioned a couple of these differences, when you're kind of getting into the farm and ranching business. What are some of the other things that I'm not thinking about that would be different than residential? Stuff that you maybe didn't anticipate, or stuff that if an agent was thinking about doing something like this, that they might want to consider.
I would say that the way that you farm leads is a lot different.
Sure.
It's way more relationship based versus word of mouth. You've got to have these connections with all these different people, and you've also, your soul has to age a little bit. You got to be able to connect to the older demographic, because like you said earlier, that's a big target in this. Unfortunately, the sad reality is a lot of these families, the kids don't want the land anymore.
Yeah. They want the money from the land.
Right. They want the money from the land, or they just, they want their parents to deal with it and be done with it. So I would say that that's the biggest thing that I notice the difference is how you generate these leads and how you come across this stuff.
Well, and how do you guys do it then? I mean, like, obviously I'm not going to go drive out to a ranch and like, hey, I'm Eric. I do farm and ranching. I do farm and, whatever, real estate. I'd love to just shake your hand. Like, is it in churches? Is it in, the community? Do you like find yourself at events and shake hands with the right people?
We do a lot of events in the community. and we go just anywhere we can. We try to sponsor what we can.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for leads, but just to give back.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, a big part of our business is word of mouth. A lot of people have worked with us and they say, hey, you know, use my guys, use my guys. In new lead generation, we've got a bunch of different techniques that we do, but it's really just about getting out there. I mean,
Yeah.
And it's old school too. We do a lot of cold calling.
yeah, a lot of cold calling, right?
You know, we pick out a spot on the map. We target
Who owns the
long-term landowners over a certain size, potentially out-of-county landowners is a big thing because you know that they're absentee.
Yeah. So let me take care of this piece of property for
But
you.
like you say, is it as simple as, you know, I'd like to shake your hand. Sometimes on the phone it is. It says, hey, next time you're in Waco, give me a call. I'd love to take you to lunch.
Yeah.
And getting face-to-face with these people. And because at the end of the day, a lot of agents can sell your land, but you're going to work with who you connect with most of the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, these things take years. Yeah, there's one that we're working on that's taken 6 years. You know, it's you gotta be willing to play the long game. It's not like, hey, I've got to move, so just, you know, go ahead and just sell my house. It's, I already got my house and I've got this land. I may sell this piece of property if the stars align. And so sometimes it's a waiting game for us, and it's just to keep building that rapport with them. And it takes time.
Well, I mean, and those people know each other, you know, so,
yeah.
you know, you build that 6-year trust, and this guy in the meantime is like, hey, my buddy over there is trying to sell and he's trying to, you know, looking to downsize. You guys should talk to him, or maybe he should talk to y'all. So, you know, you know, and I would assume that it probably almost gets better and better as you go because of these longer connections, you know, like it might be 6 years, I mean, 10 years, you know, and then as that really flourishes, like these relationships, I think you know, end up seeing kind of the fruit of your labor, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think a big difference, you kind of lead me into this, a big difference in relationships in farm and ranch versus residential is relationships with other farm and ranch agents is huge.
Yeah.
oh wow.
Because a lot of these properties never hit the market.
Yeah.
Like the thing we work on for 6 years, it's never been on the market. It's been off market. And we've had several different agents come to show it because you call around, you say, hey, what do you got that's off market? I may have some
Really?
work. And so these connections with other agents is a huge deal.
Okay.
So that's something that I would say you got to lean into.
Yeah.
And it's not as competitive as residential. Like there's enough land to go around and there's not many of us that specialize in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really a good community. So that's one thing that I was shocked by to get into the farm and ranch industry is,
People are trying to help each other.
we're buddies with so many different people.
Yeah. You know, if you're doing residential, you've got, you know, let's just say, let's just take Waco. You've got, I don't know how many houses are in Waco. Let's just say there's, you know, 2,000 houses in Waco. There's probably 10,000 houses in Waco. But, you know, these properties are big properties. And it's not like you can just do a milk run around Waco and hit like 10 or 12 of them in a day. You know, you would have to like spend a day at one, spend a day at other. What is like your scope? You know, like you mentioned being down by the border. Is it like we're going to be traveling all over Texas? We're going to make sure that, you know, anybody that needs us in this whole, you know, footprint has access to us. Does it become a lot bigger where Waco residential is more contained? You know, it's kind of like Texas is like Waco to the United States almost.
I would say it varies a little bit. One, it's kind of property driven, you know, depending on what the buyer's looking for. But there's some areas down by the coast where we're not comfortable operating because there's so much different stuff that goes down in there.
Yeah.
I would say our hub, that what we would like to stay in, is about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour radius of Waco.
Yeah.
And then I'm also licensed in Oklahoma, so we'll go up there, you know, as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try and keep it here, but you know, for Lingle it was almost 7 hours, but it was a buyer we knew. It was a bigger ranch, something he really wanted to see, so we did that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a broader scope. I would tell people, get ready to fall in love with your steering wheel because that's what you see a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of windshields down there.
Yeah.
So what else? What else are we missing here? That we should unpack when it comes to farms and ranches. One things that I didn't mention earlier, um, so in the therapy world, we do a lot of work with accessibility and equipment on big ranches and making sure people can still do what they need to do. Um, do you sell a lot of equipment on ranches, like with the ranch, like this, skid steer or this tractor or this thing is going to come with the property? Like, is that all kind of in the mix as well?
It can be, yeah. And some of the more, you get a lot of guys that just say, "Hey, come put your new lock on my gate. I'm gonna leave everything."
Yeah.
We do come across that, and then sometimes certain equipment will come into question. Of course, it's a non-realty item, so it's got to be either on their end where we have nothing to do with it between buyer and seller, or if it is in a contract, we have certain amendments that we have to put in place to kind of cover that. But yeah, I mean, most time if you got a fully functional ranch, and they're not taking their stuff with them, and it's kids selling their parents stuff, they don't care.
Yeah.
They just sell it all. So for the most part, we'll try to kind of grease the wheels a little bit with buyers. Just saying.
Certainly probably a lot easier that way.
Yeah, there's a tractor right there, ready to go with the implements that they've been using on this property for the last 20 years.
Just had a fresh oil change.
Yeah, the fresh oil change, the brand new tires, ready to roll. And so sometimes there's equipment that's involved.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really cool. You mentioned earlier, if you come on a property that you're trying to kind of work for a buyer or a seller, and there's a lien on the property, and maybe that has been there for 20 years. Like the guy he's got like a dairy farm on, a piece of the property. How does that work? Like, how do you navigate, like, hey, you need to get off, or we're going to be selling this whole property, so you got about 6 months to figure things out, but we're going to have to sell it. Like, what does that look like?
Most leases have a contract between the seller and the guy that's going to be leasing the property. The majority of ones we run into are cattle ones that are about a year. They have rights, so they have to realize that they do have rights. Leases can be bought out. Product can be bought out of the ground. The biggest thing you're going to find between residential and farm ranches are contracts. Our contract is completely different than a residential contract. There's just too many things in there for me to put it all on the podcast. It goes into very great detail of like what is going to be assumable and what is not going to be assumable. So if, let's say you just put in a bunch of oats, you're trying to get some spring yearlings ready.
Yeah.
And we put this thing under contract January, supposed to close in March. Well, you have a right to be able to get those oats out of the ground, and depending on what that looks like, it could be letting them cattle on there, eat them things down. If not, then the person that's purchasing needs to buy out and reimburse the leaser for that product, basically.
Wow. So that's kind of part of the negotiation.
You have a lot of people that do buy, and they just have to wait and let the guy that had it leased finish out his lease for the year.
Yeah. Wow.
We had one like this last year. It was a little over 100 acres, and the front 20 was in oats, and we closed it in about March, and oats are ready to be harvested usually May, June. And so the buyer and seller came to an agreement. That 20 acres was already fenced off. He said, you can run your cows on the back part of it, but I just need to get in there to get my oats. And the buyer was good with it. But if he hadn't been, then the one who planted needs to put a value on what the seed was, what the chemical he's put down, and get it bought back out.
And going back to like the leases and stuff, you get there's still a lot of good old boys handshake deals.
Yeah.
We try to encourage, hey, get that on paper. Yeah, it's a little bit easier for us.
Yeah.
Because when they call us and say, where's that lease up? We go, we don't know. They shook a hand on the back 50 and we have no idea what it is. So that's not in place. And as buyer's agents, that's what we kind of look for too, is like, hey, were these leases like, were they signed? Or is this just his cousin Ed, throwing all the sheep on the back part of this place?
It gets a little bit more tricky then.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my father-in-law has a big chunk of, I think, 20,000 acres and not 20,000, 2,000 acres in Sonoma County in California. And he's got a dairy farm on it. And he's like 80 something now, trying to figure out what to do with the property. And they want to sell it, but this guy's on there. It's rough, and that guy's been there forever, you know. So is there a situation where you can make a deal with the buyer and the person who's been leasing, like, let's just keep it going. You're going to owe this guy this much. Obviously, you're going to have it written down now because that relationship hadn't been established like the previous one. They do that.
Oh yeah, all the time. We see leases get taken over. Or it's actually some people who are buying land for a buy and hold, or maybe they're going to get to it in a few years. They love to see a leasee already in place and that's willing to stay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely pretty common.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine it would be beneficial, again, for all parties. Like, you get to stay, you get to, pay me money,
Taxes, they give you each exemption.
keep it or exemption. Yeah. Wow.
So in some cases, like you said, it's valuable to keep somebody on there taking care of it because your ag valuation is already in taxes.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, we got a place listed right now, and its unexempt taxes are about $6,000 a year, and he paid $118 last year. He's got a hay lease on it. So that's under exemption.
Yeah.
So big money saver there. So not only are you getting a little bit of money from the lease, I mean, the lease most of the time it's not going to pay your mortgage share. But when you add up that, hey, maybe save me $8,000 in taxes as well, that's pretty big benefit.
And you're getting the lease on top of that air. So I want to rewind a little bit. We've talked about, whether there's crops, cattle, and stuff on these properties. But as you're looking at selling a property, it's not just the property that we're selling. Sometimes they're full businesses that are currently working businesses. Help me understand what is it that I can make money with on a ranch that could potentially be something that I could put into the listing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways. So obviously livestock, cattle, you see people breeding horses, goats, sheep. A big one around here is exotic game ranches.
Why?
So
I mean, what do we do with exotic game? Hunt?
yeah, they hunt, they breed. Whitetail breeding was a huge deal in the area too, but the Texas Parks and Wildlife kind of put their hands in it, and it got really messy. But exotics are still considered livestock in the state of Texas, so they can breed like cattle. They don't have all the regulations that whitetail do. So yeah, if you're on a ranch, and you don't have to have very big property to do that either, and it's really popular right now.
Okay. So you have livestock, which could be, your traditional cows, whatever it could be, exotic animals, sheep, things like that. What else? What else makes me money on a ranch?
Well, if you ask the farmers, they'll tell you they don't make any money, but you could farm it.
Yeah.
With all kinds, corn, hay. Down here, you're not going to really grow alfalfa, but alfalfa is a big one farther up north. Then more people will pay just about anything for good alfalfa. But yeah, you could do rotational crop grazing on there. You could just do rotational crops.
Yeah.
Soybeans, cotton.
Yeah.
Those are big ones around this area.
You can also just make money with the land itself. So if you buy a bigger place that has some good road frontage, a big thing right now is ranchettes. So you end up selling 200-acre place that may end up getting divided 10 or 12 times.
Really?
Not turned into a subdivision, but you're getting these 10, 12, 15-acre tracts that people can come build a house on and have a little homestead or a hobby farm. So just the land itself can make money.
So would you say that if I were to do that, let's just say I was a buyer and I saw a 200-acre lot of property and I said, I think I'm going to break this up. Would I be leasing that, or would I just break it up and sell it in 10 different chunks?
Break it up and sell it.
Break up and sell it.
Better way.
Probably run a lease on it while you're waiting for it to sell.
Sure.
Keep your ag
exemption down and make a little money. But yeah, just break it up and sell it. The things you're going to be looking for would be road frontage.
Yeah.
How easy is it to break this off? Water accessibility is a big thing. People just assume you can go out and drill a well anywhere, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
There's pockets all over. There's dry pockets. We run into it all the time. We bring a well guy out and they're like, oh, there's a well 1,000 feet this way. And the guy's like, there's no water right here.
Yeah.
And so that's a big thing to consider when you're doing that.
Okay.
Electricity.
Yeah, electricity, utility availability, basically.
Now, let's say I own the property, the 200, right? And I said, I want to break this up and sell it individually. Like over a period of, time, should I prep that property for something like that? Or do we just say we're going to, pop in these, grid squares and you get this one, you get this one. And good luck. Is it worth more if I develop it a bit more?
Yes.
Essentially.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. If you're cutting in gates and access and pouring driveways, even that makes a big difference. Fencing's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't realize how expensive a fence can be, but they're, just a barbed wire fence is running $3.50 to $4 a foot right now.
Jeez.
And if you're fencing off 12 acres, I mean, mathematicians don't quote me, but say you got 1,000 acres of fence, that's quite a bit of $4,500.
Yeah.
Well, and buyers are the worst. I mean, even sometimes me included about having vision. So if you put it in place, it's easier for them to stand on it and say, there's my boundary, there's my boundary, there's my boundary.
Yeah.
So there's no questions between it. Because you get somebody out in big pieces, you say, yeah, there'd be 12 acres there. Oh, where's it at? Where them little poles are, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
So we do definitely encourage,
Yeah.
just get fence in place.
Put all your kids out in the corners.
Right.
See Junior over there?
Yeah.
That's the far corner.
Yeah. Just like studies have shown that residential buyers are more attracted to staging, and then it can often help the sales price. Same thing if you're cutting up land.
Yeah.
What they can see is what it is.
Sure. They always talk about location, and residential obviously plays a lot more to that than something like farm and ranching. But how's that come into play for farm and ranching? Like, I know a lot of people want solitude, or sometimes they want to be closer. Like, hey, I want all this land, but I also want to drive 20 minutes to HEB.
Yeah.
What is that? How does that come into play?
It varies buyer to buyer. Like we've got a lady right now, super sweet couple. They're wanting a decent sized ranch, but she doesn't want to be within a mile of a wind turbine.
Gotcha.
And we're looking out in the Comanche Mills County area, and there's wind farms everywhere. So
You got that. You're fighting solar. People want to be near solar.
Yeah.
With all the data centers going in, that's become another obstacle that we have to go over.
Do you see a lot of industry trying to buy these properties?
We get a lot of people call us for that.
Do you say no to a lot of these people, or does the owner not want to sell to them?
you have that a lot.
Yeah. Somebody's going to do it. And if you're putting food on my table, I'll give a swing at it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to turn down business just because you want to put a data center on there. Am I pro data center? No. But somebody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
In order to feed my family, I'm going to do what I got to do. And if that means feeding some other farmer who's maybe not making it, that's got 300-400 acres.
Yeah.
Because you run into that a lot too. They're just, they're not making the money anymore.
Sure.
And they're trying to get out of it. If we can bring them a deal like that, we've done deals where they needed rock.
Yeah.
And you had rock underneath your property. It worked out for the seller, worked out for the buyer. I'm sure people didn't like us for it, but then again, are you paying my grocery bill? Are you keeping the lights on? No, you're not. So we're going to do what we got to do.
Yeah.
Our primary is farm and ranch, and we love the farmers and ranchers, and we benefit them too by doing stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
give and take. Your buyers don't really want to be around that stuff, but your sellers want a price point. You got to sure it's best for each individual property.
I hadn't even considered like the wind turbines and things like that. What would be the reason I wouldn't want a property that's by a solar field or a wind turbine? Is it noise? Is it just looks like, it's an eyesore? Like what would push me away?
So you get a lot of the
Conspiracy theory.
theory. You got to go. There's some it goes pretty deep.
There's a lot of stuff to it. I mean, for one, the biggest thing's the eyesore.
Sure.
And on solar, the biggest thing, if you're directly across the property line from a solar farm, your property is going to be hotter.
It does shit.
It's just
Generate it. Yeah.
turbines. There's been a lot of studies on. They don't put out an audible noise, but there's a micro frequency. We ran into that on that place that sold a snapshot for us in Mount Collin. There was turbines on the neighboring property. We had a buyer walk away because it was too close.
Find so many feet. Another big one that we haven't seen yet, but we've heard of is like the Bitcoin mining, which I have no idea what that is, but I do know that that is super loud.
Yeah.
And it runs about the same, I guess, sound frequency as like a train constant.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's, there's a lot of variables.
Yeah. So as we're looking at these things, like, talk to me about some of the easements, right? Like the getting on the property, understanding like how it's going to affect my price, gas, electric, all those things. Like, how does that come into play when I'm trying to kind of navigate those situations?
I would say a lot of it depends on the size. So if you've got a really, really big property and there's just a gas line easement going on the south side that really affect it too much, it's not going to affect the price too much. But on these smaller tracks, when they go right through the middle, it restricts your building, especially for a buyer that's wanting to buy a specific tract to build. It takes away a lot of the property's value because you could put cows on it, you can graze it, you can't build a house on it, at least not by the pretty oaks that you see up by the road, because the gas line's within 25 feet or 100 feet, whatever it may be.
Right.
So navigating that, our first obviously job is to figure out the company, figure out the easements.
Sure.
Because every easement on each gas line is going to be different. You've got gas lines that are 6 inches, you've got gas lines that are 32 inches, and they're going to have different easements and restrictions for each one.
Yeah. That's something like things like that, in these residential spaces, it's like, it's all kind of locked in, checkerboards and stuff like that. But I can imagine that is a pretty big thing to consider as you're like, hey, do you want to build on here? And where do you want to build, and what can you, like, how far can you get without, crossing the line?
A big one that we run into is Highway 6 in Falls County. There's a big Atmos line that runs. It just parallels the highway, and it's probably 200 yards into these guys' fields, and a lot of those are farmers. So when they purchase those properties, we have to be sure to tell them, like, hey, they do come up and dig these up every so often. Yeah. So you may have fresh oats, but they're going to come and they're going to dig a big old hole.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They've got the right of way.
They've got the right of way, and they've already paid. So the majority of those going in place, the person that owned the property when they were going in usually got the big fat check. So you're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get paid anything for those being there. It's just more of an inconvenience for some people. Some people don't care. Some people care quite a bit.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's extremely rare to find a property that doesn't have any type of easement on it.
Yeah.
Power or water line or gas line or anything like that. So it's just something you got to be mindful of, and you can't always see them. The gas lines are buried. If you're in
Sure looks pretty, doesn't it?
Well, if you're in a heavy property and there's timber everywhere and then nothing in a 30-foot wide span, you can reasonably say there's a pipeline under there.
Yeah.
But not everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And so that's something you got to be mindful of and explain to people what it does to their property and what their rights are on it.
Well, I would assume there's some like liability to making sure you're having those conversations. Like, by the way, what you're seeing here is gorgeous, but just so you're aware, these things are here. You won't be able to build on here. Like, have you been in a situation where somebody's like, all right, it's the greatest thing. I'm going to put this 4,000 square foot house right here, and then come to find out they can't. And they're like, what did you sell me? I mean, not that you guys would have done that, because you're
usually
perfect. But
our first, if there's an easement on the property that we know is going to be directly affecting somebody wanting to build, we have one right now out towards Glen Rose.
Yeah.
Little 5-acre piece, has a pipeline going right across the side. The first thing I say on the phone, there's a pipeline going right across the side. Do with that information as you will. As a buyer's agent, you're supposed to really be doing that. I'm not going to hold your hand. And
sure, of course.
But I will tell you, there's a pipeline. This is the company. You can contact them and you can hear directly from them, because I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the information. It is
now you have the
out of my mouth.
It is out of my mouth. That liability is on you.
Yeah.
Okay. But no, you do hear horror stories about where people buy something and they're like, oh, the building site I was going to put my house, there's a 50-foot wide easement, and now this property is useless to me.
Surveys, surveys are another big one. Especially these properties that have been in the same hands for years and years. Sometimes fencing doesn't line up with surveys. We've had surveys going to other people's buildings.
Really?
Because they built too close and they didn't have it surveyed whenever they built a building. And now it comes to discussion. Are you going to pay them for going across, or are you going to tear it down? And Yeah. So
move it.
yeah. So usually, and a lot frequently now they want updated surveys. We try to push for updated surveys so we know exactly what we're selling
Sure.
because that opens up a lot of liability. But yeah, I mean, we get these properties that have been in the same hands for 60, 80 years.
So, hey, Mr. Jones, you have a survey? It's like, oh, yeah, let me dig that up. Yeah, he's got a watermark from 1972. And you're like, I think we need
It's
that.
hand drawn.
We
And
need to see what's going on.
I said, did you follow the pins when you put the fence in? Nah, me and my brother went and put it in with a backup pickup trucks. Oh, okay.
And a 30 pack of beer. So we're not sure how great that is.
Oh man, I love that. Well, guys, as we wrap up, I did want to give you some of the last words here. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but some of our listeners, maybe new agents or maybe agents that really want to kind of start going that direction of doing ranching, farming. What would be some tips, your advice to them to kind of get moving? And I know you said earlier, just do it, just start, because sometimes hesitation is like, when's the best time? But what would be some tips that you guys would have?
I mean, for me, it's be knowledgeable about what you want to sell. And if you're not knowledgeable, you can get there. I'm not saying like if you've never been on a ranch or that you can't sell farm and ranch, but take the time to teach yourself what these properties are going to be used for.
Sure.
How many head of cattle can run on a ranch in Central Texas? Like kind of just take the time to learn, realize that asking a question is better than getting sued later on down the road. So if you don't know, don't tell your buyer, oh, well, I think that goes over there. Just be like, you know what, let me find out.
Sure.
And I think the same goes for residential, but when you're dealing with such a larger scale property, these turn into much bigger issues very fast.
Bigger properties, bigger consequences.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What about you, Cody?
And I probably piggyback off that, just stay educated. Things are changing every day. We did this for 7 years. We still learn something every single day, something new. Taylor's real big about mindset, and mindset in this business is everything.
Yeah.
And don't have pride. Throw your pride aside because you're going to be picking up the phone and calling. There's an old guy that sells real estate out in Coryell County that Taylor talks to all the time, and I talk to plenty of people in the industry that done it a lot longer than I have. You just ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions because if you're prideful, there's a fall that will come.
Yeah. Well, you guys even mentioned how close, tight the community is, and pride doesn't serve you in a space that you have a good community trying to lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll lean on those people. Find a handful of agents, whether it's Cody or myself or somebody else, but find somebody that's in this industry to grab onto. Yeah. Don't just go on YouTube and say, "Oh, I think I figured this out."
Yeah. And we promise we're not ignoring you in our trucks. We're really on the phone. We're constantly.
Well, Cody, Taylor, I can't thank you enough for being on today. You guys, listeners out there, B2 Ranch Group, we're going to put all your information in the show notes below. We'll make sure that people have your contacts and kind of where to find you. Definitely reach out to them. If some of the new realtors out there that might have more questions or whatever, I'm sure they'd be happy to kind of chat about you with it. But we'll put all that below. And I want to thank you again for being on. And it's been such a pleasure. And I've learned so much from you guys. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. And this week's tip of the week: when listing land or ranch properties, don't treat it like a house. Lead with a drone, boundaries, and what the land can do, like hunting, grazing, investment, and not just what's on it. And once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors for today's podcast, and that is Sold in a Snap. Sold in a Snap is Central Texas' premier real estate photography and marketing company, helping agents look incredible, stand out from the competition, and grow their business. They provide photos, tours, videos, and marketing, everything that you would need to market yourself and your listings with ease. Want to save time, wow your clients, and dominate the market? Visit soldinasnap.com and see how Sold in Snap can elevate your business or your listing today. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next one.
And that's today's pour. Thanks for spilling the real tea with us. Don't forget to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next hot pour of real estate talk. And remember, this is just the tea, not legal, real estate, or financial advice.